you. Thank you. This is such an awesome experience. Have to say that when I was invited to be among such a wonderful array of examples of what being a graduate of this institution means to the world, I was deeply honored and at the same time humbled by this invitation because, quite frankly, I think we represent thousands and thousands over the years, quite frankly, of folks who are doing powerful things in their communities. I happen to be one who is representative of the non-traditional law path because early in my journey made a decision that, I really think that the thing I want to do, assuming that I'm going to graduate, is to really honor why I went to law school in the first place, which was, justice for all and the role that law training provides in being able to do that in ways that I had no idea. So the topic that I chose for today is where passion and law meet, because I think it reflects my journey. I think it reflects decisions that so many other people are making in terms of what the skill set and the training does for you in terms of making a difference in any of the ways that you choose to do that. So where passion and law meet. And as Dean Raymond mentioned, I, like many of you in the room, have wanted to be a lawyer for as long as I can remember. For me, that goes back to high school. And there were no lawyers in my world, not in my family, not among my friends. Somehow or another, I got the impression that the things that I enjoyed doing, which even back then included being there for people, somehow or another, people are drawn to me, they tell me their problems. They ask for my perspective. They appreciate that I listen and do not judge, even back then. And I somehow thought, oh, that's what lawyers do. Now, might have been naive at the time, but that's what I remember about why law. Just so that you know, UW Law School was my only choice. That also might have been naive, because what if I hadn't got in? But I think that it was ordained that this was the place that I was supposed to learn. And so in 1977, which was my first year of law school, my mother was a law student at Marquette University Law School. My mother was one of a handful of black students back in those days. She graduated from Marquette Law School in 1978. She had one of my brothers while in law school. She was pregnant with my second brother when she graduated. So in many ways, although we might not have thought it was special, it was indeed special. My mother demonstrated, and that's just a little bit of an example of why she's my shero, so to speak, because she let me know that women, black women, can be and do whatever they choose to do, whatever their goals and dreams are, and I learned that very early. So, thank you, Mom. I also, as I mentioned, decided probably in the first semester of my second year that I wasn't going to be a traditional lawyer, work in a law firm, or work for government, public defender, DA, any of those paths. I stumbled into some labor relations and collective bargaining classes. Maybe I didn't stumble into them, but it felt like I just didn't have any background to know that they would be as powerfully impactful on my direction as they were. They fit my personality. They were about problem solving. They were about how do people find common ground and get to a solution that really works for both. That seemed to be what I was not only good at, but what my passion was. And so, although I didn't know what the non-traditional path would be, I pretty much decided I was not going to be a traditional lawyer, and I was pretty happy about that decision, to tell you the truth. And so I say that because, particularly for the law students in the room, it is really true that our training in this institution, and particularly if we take advantage of the clinical or internship or opportunities, the world is vast in terms of what we can do with the degree from this really wonderful institution. I remember while in law school, one of my favorite clinical experiences was something that back in those days was called the Legal Assistance to Inmates Project. It's probably got a different name now. We used to call it LAIP. There I clerked in the National Labor Relations Board. I had the honor of clerking as a third-year law student for Justice Shirley Abrahamson. And so between all of that, those experiences, maybe other law schools offer them, but to me, that just solidified that whatever I wanted to do and whatever you want to do, you can do. And if you're like me and the goal is to make a difference in a powerful way, the experiences that you can take advantage of, and I'm sure all of you are, really enable that to happen. So one of those traditional training, if you will, elements in the law school was Iraq. And so although Iraq in its definition was drilled into all of us, my definition when I think about passion, where passion and law meet, is that I have a different definition that I think exemplifies what my journey has been, both from a lot of government experiences, state government, city government, through two private sector organizations, Kraft Foods, Miller Brewing Company back then, to the nonprofit world. My Iraq is issues, relationships, action, and compassion. And I have found that through that definition, I have been able to really not only enjoy, get through, but more than anything, thrive in the experiences I've had in supporting our youth, particularly in my home community, Milwaukee, Wisconsin. So as Dean Raymond talked about, I, in 2003 or 4, had a really good career in the private sector. The one thing I had wanted to do was to be able to support my son being able to, and I only have one child, he's a teacher in Houston, support him being able to go to and through college, and I wanted to be able to make that an affordability non-issue, if you will, for him. So being able to do that, mission accomplished, I could now focus on where is my passion? What can I contribute to? And in such a way that isn't just depending on opportunities to volunteer, but rather to be a new vocation. At the same time that I was thinking about those things, and it took me a couple of years, someone said to me, you know, don't struggle about the fact that you know what you don't want to do. You know, revel in that. Take some joy in that, because a lot of people don't have that clarity in life. It'll come to you what it is that you want to do if you just be patient with yourself. And so, is that me? Okay, all right, sorry. Because I have this bad habit of making things beep, and so I just want to make sure it wasn't me. Anyway, so long story short, I had this wonderful, wonderful opportunity come my way to become the second executive director and then CEO of an organization called Pearls for Teen Girls. Pearl stands for personal responsibility, empathy, awareness, relationships, and leadership. And I know I messed up with the R, but anyway, you get the point. The girls named the organization, and at the time that I started, which is 2006, there were 6 weekly groups, and there were about 200 girls being served between the ages of 10 and 19 in self-development and leadership, skill building. Pearls has always been an organization that is 90-something% African American girls, most of whom are free and reduced lunch eligible, many of whom have had some of the most horrifically challenging experiences we wouldn't expect for them, and they have such huge resiliency. Not all of them are that way. The beauty of Pearls is that we have all girls and all backgrounds working together to build trusting relationships, and learning how to set personal goals and be responsible and accountable young ladies The adults in the room get to learn how to be that as well, because one of the most humbling experiences I ever had was learning that this is not a situation where adults say what they want to say and do what they want to do, and the two don't have to match. Our girls, our young ladies held us accountable for walking our talk. And as an adult, many of you may have learned that. I kind of doubt it, because we probably pretty much have been raised to really be the adult in the room, and then the young people are supposed to learn from us, and so on and so forth. Well, that got flipped with this organization. So for the issue, we get to our relationships. Over the years, I have built such a wonderful array of a network, if you will. I've got believers and supporters and friends and partners who over the years have, we've been so good together that I was able to use that network to get volunteers and investors to believe in these girls and help with the growth strategy. The action, the A, was the results that the girls themselves achieved. So these girls set personal goals, whether they were in middle school or whether they were in high school. The stats that Dean Raymond gave you are true. Over all of these years, and that was about 7 or 8 that I was there, somewhere between 95 and 100% of our girls did not get pregnant, chose not to get pregnant. 97 to 100% of them graduated from high school within 4 years. 95 to 100% of them were accepted to at least one college. This was their choice, these were their results, these were their actions. And so by being able to tell that story, their story, that they did with help from us, we were able to build support within Milwaukee to sustain the growth that we achieved. Compassion. Compassion means caring. And the reason that our girls felt that they could trust these adults in this journey and in their journeys, and today among the alum, is because there was a consistency about compassionate adults really believing and standing by these girls. Every single one of them had at least one caring adult throughout their entire Pearls journey. This is important because I'm here to tell you, based on the experiences I've had now between that organization and the one that I'm in now, that the biggest contributor to the struggles that our youth are having today, and I would argue not just in Milwaukee, but in every setting, urban and rural, is the lack of caring, consistent caring adults in the lives of so many of our children and our young people. We're putting them in the position, so many of them, and I would argue particularly in marginalized communities where there are not enough resources being devoted to what it takes, let alone a belief that we own that responsibility to care about these young people and that we will do whatever it takes to stand by them so that they can be what their zip code, their race, or their other issues tell them that they cannot be. That is our job. That is our responsibility. And when we do it, our youth shine and thrive, and they do achieve. I've had 8 years of experience with Pearls for Teen Girls to tell me that is so, and especially when we talk about girls who become young women. So today, I'm the executive director of something called Milwaukee Succeeds. It is a part of the Strive Together community, which is a national network of communities that are committed to improving outcomes, educational outcomes for children, cradle to career. We unite all kinds of partners and organizations around common strategies that they own in order to see outcomes. And let me tell you, this work is hard. There are so many things that you learn that are impacting what happens in education, and particularly in the classroom. And we hear often, that teachers are being asked to do and be responsible for things that they never in their training, let alone their experiences, ever thought, and therefore are not equipped to handle. And that is a true statement. But I also think that the thing I want you to know is, and I guess I don't think it, I think it, I think it, I don't think it, but what I want you to know is that the systems are working against our young people. So let me talk about the babies for an example. Every child should have a quality childcare experience. Every child. Because as we know, between 0 and 3, that's when the most of brain development happens. Whether that's through reading to children, whether that's to how we let them just test and feel and learn and experience in a positive manner. Every child deserves that, but so many. I've got a zip code in Milwaukee, 53206, where there is not one quality child care center in the entire zip code. That should be a crime. When we talk about what our data tells us about third grade reading and the fact that if you can't read proficiently by the third grade, the likelihood of your completing high school is so significantly less, why wouldn't we do what it takes to ensure that our teachers know how to teach all children, particularly in urban settings, that our families are supported in continuing those tutoring and those other aspects that it contribute to not only our children learning to read, but actually reading to learn? Why wouldn't we be concerned about dropout rates and college access and completion? And why would we look disparities that are so persistent out here and say, oh, that's somebody's problem, isn't that a shame? And then wonder why we have so much evidence of failure happening to our children. And so those systems that impact what happens to children and families in schools, that is not just up to the schools. Those systems are our social safety nets. Those systems are how do we support families by ensuring that everyone has a livable wage. Those systems are the kinds that are appalled at mass incarceration. Those systems are the ones that say, why is it the case that the have and have-nots usually break down on race lines? And if we all take that upon ourselves to challenge those systems, blow them up, start them over, the impact on what happens in the classroom will be phenomenal. So when I think about where passion and law meets, for me, it's about what is it that we are committed to doing. And if there is anything we can do about disparities, about issues around race and social marginalization, then we need to stand up and do that. My experience in this institution, UW Law School, has prepared me for the journey I've been on, and more than anything, has been not only fulfilling on a personal level, but it has made it my commitment for as long as I'm on this earth that I will continue to seek justice. So thank you, UW Law School. Thank you all for listening.